I always had the opinion that Bellarmine did everything right.
Recruiting, and more recruiting.
Well, I don't really care what my time is. And they're like, okay, so like, what do you think you're going to go? I said, faster than you.
Listen, this is what you do. This is what day it is. This is everything else that happens during the Derby.
The next pitch I saw, I hit a no-doubter, and that just set the tone for the little tournament, and we freaking ran through that thing. I love telling that story.
I don't think I'll find anything like this ever again.
This is the Knights of the Round Table podcast. Hope you're having a great day. Thanks for joining us. I'm Jack Kaiser. As always, remember that you can find the links and clips to all our episodes across our social media platforms. Just search at BU Knights. Our guest today was a Big Ten wrestler, an assistant coach at various places across the country, and now leads the Bellarmine program coming up on its 7th year of existence. We have a lot to talk about with Neds Wrestling head coach Ned Shuck. Coach, how you doing today?
I'm doing great, man. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, of course. Appreciate you joining us. You've been at Bellarmine for a year now. Is that weird to think about? You've been here for a whole year?
Yeah, I guess maybe not weird, but I just did recognize that, after this last weekend of being out recruiting, that was kind of marked the first day on the job was out there. So recruiting in Fargo, North Dakota. So not weird, but certainly it's been a really cool year.
How's it been? I mean, it's a lot to come in and take over an entire program that's really young. So I guess your first impression of being here and first year on the job.
Yeah, so I'm loving the challenge. It's definitely been that on multiple levels. Like you mentioned, it's a young program. We had a young team, and so kind of stepping in and just trying to figure out, all right, hey, what are the most important foundational things for us to put in place for the long-term growth of our program and success of our program at every level. And so that's been fun kind of figuring that out and, shifting focus a little bit here and a little bit there and just trying to navigate that and get to know everybody here at Bellarmine and know how the student body and the rest of the faculty and staff and all that work together. And so it's been a lot of fun just kind of learn that and getting acclimated with the area a little bit, which I still feel like I really haven't gotten to see a whole lot. I've been kind of nose to the grindstone quite a bit. And, our offices are obviously in the wrestling room right next to that. So we're away from everybody else. So I've just kind of been nose to the grindstone and getting at it and learning a lot about our guys and what they need and moving forward with that. So it's been a really cool challenge and a lot of fun so far.
For those that don't know, the Wrestling Center is a couple miles away in an old church down the street from Bellarmine. That's what you were referencing. But we'll get into what you have going on right now. But I find the origin stories for coaches and players fascinating of how they initially grew to love what they do. So how'd you get into wrestling?
Yeah, so originally getting into sport, my brother kind of got me into it. He was really, a traditional big brother maybe where you'd think of like, hey, you like to beat up on little brother and push him around a little bit. And that's kind of, what I experienced. And, he basically told me I was going to wrestle. And so that's just kind of how it was. I went to practice, but to be honest with you, I was, we talk about fear and overcoming fear with our guys all the time, right? I was incredibly fearful, at a young kid, as kindergarten, first grade, just getting into wrestling. I had so much that I didn't want to go compete. And so they finally got me into competition and it ended up working out pretty well. And I just kind of had success with it because I think I was, just maybe a little more aggressive than some kids at a young age and not necessarily had all the technique or positional stuff that was, really important for long-term success, but I was aggressive and competitive. And so that worked well for me. I was kind of a rambunctious kid and wrestling was a great sport for me to kind of have an outlet of energy-wise. And so once I had success, I just kind of kept breeding off of that. And, probably my 8th grade year, I went to an Iowa wrestling camp and got to listen to Dan Gable talk, and it was literally like everything I'd been looking for that I didn't know existed type of deal,
Right.
And so that was a big shift in my wrestling development, my mindset, all of that. So from there it was gung-ho to, win state titles, win national titles, and do everything I could to make that happen.
I was going to ask if wrestling was something you immediately had fallen in love with or were pretty good at, and that love kind of grew over time. And it sounds like it was the latter, where you were good at it at a young age, but then that 8th grade camp, it really sparked you from there.
Yeah, absolutely. It was, I mean, I would say before that it was kind of like my thing. I was probably not the teacher's favorite in elementary school, to say the least. But I did have wrestling, and that was the one thing that I could kind of fall back on and say I'm having some success with this. And the reality is, looking back at it right now, that was a big part of my identity.
Mm-hmm.
Back then was I'm a wrestler, and there was some pride there. And now obviously as I've grown older and know that, hey, that's not really the focus that you want to. You have your identity centered around you being an athlete, but that's the reality of what it was, and that did drive a lot of my actions to become the best. A lot of my training and just the learning and interacting and going to those camps to learn from the best. So that's kind of a little bit of the journey for me to get into it, but
Yeah.
it was definitely, like you said, initially did not love it, and then had some success and let it grow.
Right. Was there anything else besides wrestling that you loved to do as a kid, or maybe a little bit older?
I probably love football more.
Oh, okay.
To be honest, we played backyard football every single day after school, and so it was, hey, out to school. We run a block away. All the friends, we'll get together, and
Yeah.
I grew up hanging out with some older cousins, and so we were in elementary playing with 8th grade, 9th grade kids, playing football, getting our butts kicked, but we that was part of kind of us figuring out who we were as men, and
Yeah.
and boys at that time, obviously. But it was a lot of fun. It wasn't until kind of middle school where we get into middle school football, and I don't know why, because I watched football all the time, was a huge NFL fan, right? Did the baseball card, football card thing, growing up. But for some reason, I didn't draw the connection towards, hey, I'm going to have to wear pads someday. I love not wearing pads. If we had rugby or something like that, that would have been an amazing fit for me. But I put the pads on, I'm like, oh yeah, that's right. We gotta put pads on.
Yep.
It was just so out of the ordinary for me, because we'd played literally every day after school, and so from that side of things, that kind of took away a little bit of the the love, and a little bit more of the organization. That kind of took away some of the fun for me.
I can relate to that. I loved playing street football as a kid, and when I put on the pads, it just didn't feel right. So I gravitated towards baseball. You gravitated towards wrestling, but yeah, I mean, we grew up in the Midwest, or that general region. We loved football as a kid. There's no surprise there. So you wrestled at Iowa. Let's go to that stage of your life, which, of course, is in the Big Ten. And for the casual sports fan, the comparison's thrown out there a lot, where the Big Ten in wrestling is like the SEC in football. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, the Big Ten has definitely been the power conference for quite some time now, and continues to be. And you look at how they divvy out the automatic qualifier bids for the NCAA tournament, and they get their lion's share for sure. And it's a good system. I like the system and how it works. But man, they'll wrestle out to 12th and 13th place at a tournament to figure out who's qualifying. Out of the 12 or 13 guys in that weight class. So there's not very many more teams in the Big Ten that way, and that just kind of shows you the depth of that conference in wrestling for sure.
So for those that don't know, Iowa's incredible. Like, they're an incredible program. Second in NCAA history with 24 national championships. What was that experience for you like, wrestling at a place where, with so much history and where the expectation is greatness?
Yeah, it was incredible. I really enjoyed my time there. It was, like you said, the expectation was really high, and that's what I wanted. That's what I was looking for. That's what I was striving to be myself. And so it was a great fit that way. Being around the people that have, were a part of all that history was obviously amazing. Coach Gable was amazing to be around him. And, in my mind, I'm a little biased, but I think, he's the best coach that there's ever lived in any sport, based on what he's been able to do. Excuse me. But overall, like, the level of wrestling, the expectation, the environment, the sold-out stadiums for wrestling.
Yeah.
That stuff is, something you just can't get anywhere else. And so my experience at Iowa was a lot of fun.
So conditioning's a big part of wrestling. What's the craziest thing that you had to do as part of that team, conditioning-wise?
Man, you know, I don't know if there's one workout that I look back and say this was the hardest workout. I can definitely look back at a workout and realize that was the hardest for me type of workout.
Yeah.
And so we do morning workouts a lot, and Carver Hawkeye Arena is the arena that we wrestled in, but it's also our wrestling room was, you know, in the same building. And so one day we had a morning workout early and had a good drill and execution workout where you're drilling wrestling moves over and over again and at a really high pace. And then we finished up with going up to the stadium, top of the ring. We do some laps, and then there's a bunch of stairs, and we do stair laps. And so we did some running, we did some stair laps, we did some buddy carries up the stairs. We finished with some more sprints, and I had gotten to the level that maybe I hadn't been before, where I was literally hyperventilating on a run, and then thought I was, basically I was seeing the light. Maybe I don't know what to say, but kind of trainer pulled me aside, and I kept trying to run a little bit, and then it took me a couple hours to slow my breathing down and to get back under control. And so, I don't know if it was just a mix of the workout and just the timing and whatnot. Because back then there wasn't a time where I was like, I'm out of shape.
Right.
We trained year round, and that was, I think, probably my third year in school. So I was in shape. It was just something where, hey, I learned to push myself maybe a little bit harder that day, or maybe there's some environmental things that were going on too. But it was a lot of fun, and something I look back at. People ask me like, hey, what about this physical challenge or that? Would you ever do that? And for me, maybe it's a false sense now because I'm nowhere near the athletic, shape I was back then. But, I have this sense that, I can really do anything physically that, that whatever be put in front of me, And so,
right.
My wife, likes to tell the story when people ask that type of question about, us running a marathon. And I ran a marathon with her. But I had learned that I didn't really enjoy running after college.
Yeah.
I did it a lot, but I didn't really enjoy running. So she wanted to train for this marathon, and I said, "That's great. That's awesome. I'm looking forward to doing that." And she's like, "Well, you do it with me?" "Yeah, I'll do it." And so she planned out the plan, of how we're gonna train each day and how many miles we're supposed to run today and the next and all that. And I'm like, "Well, no, I'm not gonna run any miles with you. I'm gonna do the race with you." And she thought that was crazy, and my body felt a little bit too. But yeah, I ran the marathon with her and didn't run any miles. But it was because of the training at Iowa and that what I'd been through that I knew that physically, like, yeah, I could do that. It's not going to be a big deal at all.
You had the mental toughness and the previous experience to show up to a marathon without any training and run it.
Yeah, and I think I did the wrong thing too with buying new shoes. So I didn't have, I heard that you're not supposed to do the new shoes thing. So
yeah,
but I cramped up pretty hard. I looked like Frankenstein, a couple days after that for sure, walking around. But yeah.
I don't know if I've ever heard of that before. That's awesome. That's like a big resume line there as far as personal accomplishments. That's cool. So speaking of your resume, I mean, you've coached all over the country at different levels of college wrestling. Mm-hmm. Augsburg in Minnesota, Heidelberg University in Division III, Wisconsin Whitewater, where you were a head coach. But before your last stop as an associate head coach at Army, as far as that, I mean, what's West Point like? Yeah,
it's an incredible place. So much history there. I mean, if you love America, you love West Point. It's just amazing, the people that have been on those grounds, and you think that, as you're walking around campus, that like, hey, this is where George Washington was, walking around leading, and that's pretty humbling, just him alone, but there's many others. And so, and everybody that's there is as a part of a bigger purpose, which I love being a part, and I tell our guys it's really important. It's not just about us, right? It's not about you or me or just even our team. It's bigger than that. And at West Point, that's an easy thing to kind of gravitate towards. It's, hey, we're here for our country, and we're training men that are going to lead our country and lead our sons and daughters. It's a pretty cool, humbling experience to be a part of that and to get to partake in their lives and their development during that time. And So yeah, it was a lot of fun, man. It's a pretty incredible place, beautiful views. So yeah, it was cool.
Yeah, and this may come from your experience at West Point, but what's a really key piece of your philosophy or your perspective on coaching that you took away from your experience at Iowa and elsewhere as a coach?
Yeah, so I just make a habit of, really trying to learn from everybody that I'm around. And so when I was wrestling at Iowa, I knew I was going to coach afterwards. I thought I was going to keep coaching high school. That's where I was going to go. In fact, I did that for the first 4 years out of college. I coached high school. But I thought that was my path, and that's what I was going to do for the rest of my life, was teach and coach. And so the whole time I'm interacting with all my coaches, I know that, hey, these are things I'm going to apply with my athletes, down the line. And that's been the same for my experiences that you mentioned, Heidelberg, Whitewater, at West Point, just trying to take in and learn from everybody. And I've been really fortunate for a lot of the people I've been around and been very successful. Bill Zadek was one of my individual coaches I spent a lot of time with. Well, now he's a head USA wrestling coach, who's helped our team win a world championship and, been the top. They finished second in the Olympics, and just they're killing it right now.
Yeah.
Ben Peterson, I got to work with at Whitewater. Well, he was a Olympic gold medalist, Olympic silver medalist, and made the 80 team that got boycotted, and was an incredible coach at a small D3 school that not very many people have heard of, Maranatha Baptist Bible College, where he coached an Olympian and a world champion. And so coming out of that college, so it's I've been around some really amazing people. At West Point, I got to work under Coach Ward, who started his coaching career at in Arkansas and a D2 school there, and built that program in 4 years to be a top 4 team in the country. And his background was Oklahoma State, which is like the big rivalry for Iowa growing up. So took away a lot of things learning from him, not just about wrestling, but program building and how to do that. And so it's just there's been a lot of people. One of my guys I work with at Heidelberg just got inducted to Ohio Hall of Fame, Joe Hata. He was a huge mentor for me during my first college head coaching stint. So just try to make a habit of that, and everybody has added to where I'm at right now with my philosophy. And I always tell people, you gotta make it your own. Hey, I'm gonna in wrestling, I'm gonna show you this position, and we're gonna work these skill sets, but you have to make it your own. And that's kind of the same way I look at all the people I interact with and how I develop that into my coaching.
Right. It's cool to have that mindset where you knew you wanted to go into coaching at a young age, and so you knew, hey, I got to pay attention to this every step of the way, because in order to get to my goal, I'm going to need to take pieces of what I learn.
That's right.
So as far as why Bellarmine, like outside of being a D1 head coach, what drew you here?
Yeah, that first thing you mentioned is really important. That was something I definitely foresaw myself doing, as being a Division I head wrestling coach, and this was an opportunity that was open. I wanted to look at. As I've explored it more and more, I realized, man, this could be a really cool challenge, something I really enjoy. And so Bellarmine brings a lot of strengths as a school in itself, just academically, what it can provide students, which is really important when you're trying to recruit high-level athletes. Yeah. That you expect to be All-Americans, national champions at the competition level. You need to have a school that you feel like, hey, you can get a draw, especially as we mentioned earlier, it's a young program. Right. So there's not a lot of history to kind of draw off of where a lot of programs are, where they've already had numerous All-Americans, national champions, right? Team accomplishments and this and that. And so I've been a part of building, when I coached high school, that was the same type of deal. I got to build that program. When I took over at Heidelberg, that was another, school where it was, kind of a little bit in disarray at the time when I took over, and got to, build it up as quick as I could to win conference championships and, coach some All-Americans and get those guys rolling a little bit. And so I think it's something I'm really good at is, building a program from a level that, where it's at, and just really helping to excel in a hurry. And Bellarmine was just a really cool opportunity that way. And, meeting the people in the interview and getting to hear from, our athletic department from, Scott Wiegand and Pam Stackhouse, who were my major reports, my direct reports, like hearing from those guys a vision of what they have for the wrestling team and what their expectations are of the wrestling team. That to me was really exciting. That made it easy, because for me, it's important. I've worked at a lot of different spots that you have an admin team behind you that is gonna support you. That's gonna not just they're not gonna be yes men or yes women, just do whatever you want, but also hey, they're gonna back you in every way that they possibly can to help you have success and help support our wrestlers to have the best experience as a student athlete that they possibly can. And so after I got a chance to meet them, I knew, hey, this is a really cool opportunity. I hope I'm their man.
Right. And you mentioned how, one of your strengths is growing programs, and those around the program could see that there was growth last year. There were some growing pains, obviously, but there was a lot of growth, and that was clear from the first duel you guys had against SIUE that you guys won. What are your thoughts generally on last season?
Yeah, so like you said, I think generally we made some really big improvements. Like you said, a long ways to go, but I think really anybody, no matter where they're at, the returning national champions are going to say they got a long ways to go.
Right.
So that's just part of our mentality is that, hey, we're going to celebrate our successes along the way. We're not going to apologize for winning.
Yep.
And we're just going to keep looking to improve and to be the best we can. Ultimately, there's a lot more that goes into what the fans get to see, on competition day in that duel, for example, when we beat SIUE. And so really that's the part that I get to focus on the most because I'm interacting with the student athletes on a daily basis, helping them be stronger men, helping them be more confident, and learning how to master the craft and really, mentor them to be great men and live lives that are highly effective and help them to be the best they can in whatever area they want. Many of these guys are incredibly career driven, and so they have high goals for what they want to do that way. And so, hey, it's getting behind them and supporting them along that. And so I think we made some really big jumps across the board last year in that. And, like I said, foundationally, there's a lot of things that got to get in place with expectations with the team, all the way to, getting stuff ready for fundraising for the regional training center stuff for wrestling, which is a big piece. So we got some of those things in place now that will really help us continue to increase the level or the rate of our success, I think. So generally it was a good year, it was a positive year. Like I said, we took some growing pains. I like how you said it. That's a really nice way to put it. But really proud of our guys, really super proud of our guys, and excited for our returners coming in, and now our freshman class that's going to be able to come in with, a group that's been a part of it, that didn't choose me, but got me and got behind it and bought in. And so now these freshmen coming in are going to have a really solid group of guys to learn from and help pull them to a high level.
A guy that's helping you grow the program right now is Brendan Murphy. He seems like a really, energetic, hands-on type of guy. What do you like most about Brendan?
Yeah, well, those things you mentioned are important. You got to bring the energy. He's a guy that he works out with the team, every day and that side of things, and so that's always helpful when you got a guy that can not only have good energy in the office and do the things that need, but also a guy that can kick butt on the mat. And so that's awesome. But the biggest thing that I really appreciate about Coach Murphy is just his work ethic. He's just a guy that is going to work really, really hard to help us get to where we want. And he's super open-minded, but not afraid to challenge me as well as a coach. And one of the things I told him is I expect you to disagree with me a lot. And if you're agreeing with me all the time, then we might have to look to bring somebody else in that can challenge me a little bit. And so I think we really complement each other well that way.
Yeah.
Just because he's got a different background, different experience that helps me look at things a little bit differently too, and I think I help him in the same. So, but overall, that backbone comes from his work ethic, and he's been a coach. This isn't his first coaching experience. He's a seasoned coach already, and so having the success that he did, at a Division II level, and then come in and it's really clear that he's a guy that's passionate about helping student athletes, succeed on the mat, but also what a phenomenal example. I don't know how many assistant coaches there are out there that have a doctorate already.
Yeah, right.
Coach Murphy's got his doctorate, and that's a great role model for our team to say, hey, higher education is important for us and for you guys. And so there's a lot there, but I would say the biggest thing is, I love his work ethic.
Yeah, and I love what you said about, you guys challenging each other and that growth mindset. It's really cool to hear that because not everybody's that way, but that's a cool foundation you guys have. So you've been recruiting a lot. You've been going all over. I'm curious, what's the wrestling recruiting landscape like compared to other sports?
Yeah, I wish I could speak a little bit more to the other sports. To be honest with you, I don't really know it as well. So, from the wrestling side of things, it's pretty much a year-long deal. I think this coming week over our convention here, coming up here real soon, we'll have a small dead period. Over the national tournament, there's a small dead period. So other than that, it's like, hey, we're year-long, and so it's you're seeing a trend of much younger recruits committing. It's something I need to learn how to get better at. I think I'm not sure how you do it, but seeing freshmen and sophomore committing before coaches can talk to them. I'm not sure how I can make that happen. I still need to do some work on that, figure out how to do that. But it's happening younger. And so, now some of the bigger schools, I think you're throwing in the NIL deals as well that I think is, affecting all of college athletics right now. And so there's some schools that are, have a lot of money and are, willing to dish it out that way and whatever manner that is and what that looks like. But, overall it's a very competitive field. And, when I was out at the Fargo tournament, there was, pretty much every single Division I program that represented out there, trying to get after the best high school kids at the same time. So it's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun to see them out, and I like that challenge. I like that competitiveness on the recruiting side of things too. So, but it's nonstop.
Yeah, absolutely. Last one for you. What are you most excited about for next season?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing for me is the incoming guys, like just seeing, hey, this is going to be we got a big group coming in, and so it's going to be a lot of hands-on for me to help them be successful right away. And so, obviously first and foremost academically, I always tell people they I've very, very seldom found, or I've never found actually somebody that told me that their best, semester in college was their first semester. Mm-hmm. So usually it's that's a really important time. So really getting hands-on with these guys their first semester, helping them be really successful and jump into this culture and seeing how they're going to challenge our returners too, because we got some really good kids coming in that are going to challenge for varsity spots right away. Yeah. And so I think that's going to be a lot of fun to see how our culture continues to build with the new group of kids coming in.
Well, we're excited to see all of it, and it's only a few months away. It's really getting here. Coach, thanks for the time, and good luck over the next few months.
Thanks, man. I appreciate it.
Head Coach Ned Shuck, wrestling head coach Ned Shuck. That does it for KRT episode 20. Subscribe to our YouTube page. Follow us on social media at BU Knights to hear from Coach Shuck and all of our other guests. I'm Jack Kaiser, and Swords Up.